Now in here might not be the very best affordable watch of the year, but it's certainly one of the most interesting, or at least it's got one of the most interesting dials. Let's get it open and see why. And here it is. So this is the Citizen Tsuyosa Small Seconds, and it's a special version of a very popular Citizen watch, the Tsuyosa, which is this integrated bracelet sports watch, which is available for a pretty decent price. Now on the Citizen website, this new version is £399 currently, but I spent just under $300 on Amazon immediately at launch for this one. And the key difference, as you can see, is obviously this one has a small second complication rather than a traditional second hand, but also the dial texture. This has what I've heard people referring to as a guilloche dial, essentially just a very micro textured circular pattern dial, and I've been keen to see if this looks as good in person as it does online. It definitely does. In fact, I think this looks arguably better. This is the blue version. It does come in a few other colors too. I'll have them all affiliate linked in the video description. I went for this one because it is the best seller by far, according to the Amazon stats at least, which is usually an indication of what people like. And yeah, I think this watch looks great. And there's a couple of things I've noticed immediately out of the gate with this one versus the traditional Tsuyosa. Now, if you remember when I unboxed this relatively recently, I said that one of the only things that I didn't really love was the fact that the Citizen logo seemed to be really high up and then the automatic text was really low down. Now, with this new version, you kind of dodge both of those problems because there's no text at the bottom and then the automatic has been shifted up to the top, which I think leaves this top half looking much better balanced than this where the Citizen is crammed up near the top. So yeah, I think this is a really good looking watch. I thought the other one was already decent, but I'd say this is next level. Now this won't be a full review. I'm really getting hold of this watch because I want to not only compare it to that other Citizen, but I'm also taking a look at some of these other integrated bracelets, watches, like the Tissot PRX. I've got a Christopher Ward 2. I'm just keen to see what you get for your money kind of at each price point. Now in most regards, this is specification-wise the same as the traditional Tsuyosa. Steel case, 5-bar water resistance, got a sapphire crystal on the top, which is fairly legible, and it's got a same measurement, same case size. I'll just whiz you through them. Maybe 40.1 lug to lug. It kind of doesn't tell the full picture. 45 just shy of. And if you include the pretty solid end links there, it's more like close to 50 mil and a thickness of around 12 millimeters. So it's not the thinnest watch in the world, but it's not super thick for an automatic. And oh, that is a difference I wasn't expecting. So the movement looks different, or at least the rotor is different. Let's take a closer look. On the rotor on this one, it says 8322A. Now it's going to be a similar movement to the, I think it's 8210 in the other watch, just enabling the small seconds complication instead. And it also looks different. So the standard Tsuyosa has, as you can see here, a gold rotor instead and like gold finishing, or it looks like gold. It obviously won't be actually gold. The rotor as well, very different shape. This one has been hollowed out somewhat. And also a difference is the bracelet style. This one has the butterfly clasp, the same as on the likes of the PRX, despite the fact that the rest of the bracelet looks quite similar. Let's get this plastic off and take a closer look. Now this is really interesting. I completely overlooked this when I first ordered this watch. Didn't even think about it, but the bracelets are quite different. You'll see here, I think this is like an 11 mil space here. You can actually remove the bracelet, but it's not very practical. This maybe slightly more so. This definitely looks wider. Can't get my calipers exactly in there, but I think it's about 13 millimeters this time. It might open up one or two options for you. The biggest difference is the kind of style of the bracelet. The central links are much wider, which gives a different and I'd argue probably slightly better look. The central links are all polished. Outside is all brushed like last time. Now the type of clasp here, it has pros and cons. Very flush appearance at the cost of micro adjustments. Now this doesn't have any swanky micro adjustments like the likes of the new Christopher Ward integrated bracelet that they've released or are set to release, where you can adjust in small increments. You do get a very small link here, which is something, so you can adjust it to a slightly finer degree. And yeah, the same on the other side too. I didn't notice those at first, but I think this dial is what we're really all here for. And this is awesome. Now the dial is always, for me, the centerpiece of a watch, and maybe the most important part with budget watches. Does this watch look much more expensive than the amount I paid for it? I would say so, yeah. Now, will it hold up under macro examination? We will find out if I go on to do a full review of this watch at some point. This one was purchased with my own money. But first impressions, again, I feel like with the last one, very, very good on this watch. I'm generally not a huge Citizen fan. I think lots of the watches are quite vanilla, a little bit bland, boring. This is the opposite. This is like a new era for them, visually at least. It still feels well built as well. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you like this watch? Do you prefer the original Tsuyosa? What do you think? Because for me, I am very impressed. It's not too garish. I was afraid maybe this would look a little bit too garish with too much texture, but I don't think that's the case. Blends in really nicely at a distance, just has like an extra bit of dynamism. I mean, I just wish this fitted me. My wrist here is 6¼ inches, and just like with the last one, this watch is a fraction too big. I mean, it's actually not a million miles off, but if this were 38, I would wear this so much. But at 40mm, with that kind of fixed end links, and it's got a fairly flat, stout profile, as you can see. You are left with little gaps on a wrist my size anyway. It's just not the most wearable for me, and it's a shame because the colour is great. It's almost like a mid-wash denim. The only other thing that is a bit underwhelming is just the movement choice. Like, these tend to be quite loud. Let's see if this rotor has fixed that, because the last one was quite loud. Yeah, it is slightly quieter. The rotor seems to be what helps with this. I've had this a couple of times before, these slightly lighter weight, hollowed out rotors. I don't know, maybe the reduced mass just provides less audible noise. I mean, it's not perfect, not as quiet as the 9000, but it's something. But yeah, it's linked down below. Colour me impressed.